Liverpool City Council officially open. Just to remind everybody that tonight, in line with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, this meeting is being live streamed. To start the proceedings, we have the Acknowledgement of Country and the Prayer of Council and the Affirmation. Do we have any? Would anybody like to read it? All right. Don't jump up at once. Can you read the? You're the holiest person here. Right? It's up there.
Murray will read it. Thanks, Murray.
Could I ask everyone to please stand? Sorry, can you please turn on your microphone?
Before we begin proceedings, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Cabrogal clan of Darug Nation. I acknowledge that this land was accessed by the Darawal and Darug nations. Affirmation of Council. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and the well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by Council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, Councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Prayer of Council. For the God of our faith, we who are gathered at Liverpool City Council pray for the good government of our city. We pray for the well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race, gender or creed. Tonight we pray for sound decision-making by Council, which can improve the quality of life in our city. We pray for Australia, our nation's future, for the Mayor, Councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Amen.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share, with courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. We have an apologies from Councillor Harl and Councillor Calienda. Move that they be accepted. Seconded. Councillor Green, all in favour. Against, declare it carried. And Councillor Kanib, it's good to see you back with us here at the meeting.
Thank you anyway.
Okay. Great. We'll now move into the agenda. There's one item on page 4 with the recommendation on page 5, and I would like to move the motion in the book with some small amendments. The amendments being that we allocate $1 million from the intermodal reserve to install a CCTV network to deal with the problem of illegal dumping in our LGA.
I'll second that.
And the other item is to defer supporting line item 103062, which is Liverpool City Centre 30k traffic calming proposal, which council resolved at its first meeting that it does not support. Now I know that's funded from a grant, but we can have that matter at least deferred. Seconded, Councillor Goodman. In moving the motion, I want to thank the acting CEO and all the staff who put this together, and also thank the councillors for their the work and effort and interest in preparing this. Whilst we are projected to be in a better position, which is the start, the key now is to actually deliver this and actually make it happen and achieve our financial sustainability, which is this budget has actually started. And bearing in mind that the short period of time from January or December 21st since the polls were declared. I do note, and following discussion with my councillor colleagues, that we look forward to hearing the community's views about this. I think that's very important for those who are watching, that we really want to hear your views. So we have the opportunity to address them at the final council meeting. And that's also with regards to the Capital Works program. So on that, I recommend this budget, and it's, to put simply, it's about getting back to basics, and I think our community really welcomes that. So thank you. Councillor Haggerty?
Yeah, just a few points and questions. My understanding is that when we initially negotiated this payment from the intermodal, that it was strictly, that the money raised for it would be strictly for items related to the intermodal or its impact on the local area, so suburbs like Wattle Grove, Moorebank, Casula. We're now proposing to use this as a slush fund. Now,
Point of order, councillor.
I withdraw. We've been proposing to use this as a general fund for all kinds of things.
Can I ask which funds are you referring to that we negotiate with the intermodal?
The payment that we get from the intermodal.
The annual payment?
Yes.
Well, this money doesn't come from that. Doesn't come from that reserve. There's a reserve of $9.8 million that's sitting in contributions from the Moorebank intermodal.
Okay. Well, can you make that a bit more? Yeah, can you make that a bit more explicit, please?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So for the restricted, internally restricted reserve, is it through the CEO?
No, wouldn't it be the Moorebank contributions? Sorry.
I'll refer to the Chief Financial Officer.
Through the CEO, I guess the funding source that's been referred to is sitting in Section 711 reserves.
Okay.
It's an extended.
Yeah, correct. So
fund, yeah.
so having a look at the reserves, it's called Moorebank Intermodal, and it says / not a contribution plan. That's
Okay. Now, so I guess still on that, the idea behind 7-Elevens is that they're raised to, pay for works in that general vicinity. Again, I don't have an issue with CCTV cameras for illegal dumping. It's a massive issue. It's one of the things I get the most complaints about. But I just wonder how the residents of Wattle Grove and Moorebank would feel about funding a CCTV network in Milton Grange.
I think, Councillor, they'd be more interested to find out that there's been $9.8 million sitting in an intermodal reserve. I think Councillor McNaught, you were prior to being elected, you were on the intermodal committee. Had you heard about this?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Look, I guess we can.
I guess this will come out in the community consultation.
Yeah, we can adjust it whether it's from this or that, but I think this was for the sake of we can use that. There are other internal reserves that potentially could be used.
May I suggest, through the Mayor, that we take out from the Moorebank Intermodal Section 71 reserves and just leave it allocate 1 million to install a CCTV network.
Now, just can I ask a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO? If we're going to use, my understanding is that 7-Eleven, very strict criteria around what 7-Elevens can be used for. Would that include a CCTV network?
Yeah, Council, this technically is not even a 7-Eleven contribution. It's just sitting in a fund. So
I was just told it was.
It's sitting in the, so when you look at the $259 million, if you look at our reserves, which is the 259 being 7-Eleven contributions, 9 million of that is kind of out, because I think it was allocated as a developer levy, so to speak, but it's not really a developer levy.
All right, I'm with you now.
Yeah. It was an interesting line item. Almost as interesting as the $7 million we have for trees and the contributions that's sitting there.
I've seen some pretty expensive looking trees in Singapore. I'm not sure if they're really trees or just made to look like trees. A few more questions. Just on the delivery program, page 24 of the papers, page 15 of the delivery program.
What page, sorry?
24 of the council papers, but it's page 15 of the draft delivery program.
So page 24 of the agenda at the top. Yep.
Just it all comes down to personal taste, but I didn't like the wording of the strategic objectives where it said the community have told us. Now, my view is that council is the community. It's the representative body of the community, and wording like that sort of seems to suggest that you've got us sitting up in this ivory tower and the community over there, and they've told us something. So I'd like to see the wording changed, and I'm happy to send something through while it's out on exhibition, but I just wanted to raise that point. And that applies to all 4 of the objectives, I think.
Can I just, does any councillor have an issue with
Can we just have some clarity where you're reading? What
page,
it is?
page 24?
So-
The first point, isn't it? Not even the first point. Above
The sort of
10-year
thing, yeah.
strategy.
So each of the strategic objectives start with the wording, the community have told us, blah, 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 blah. And I just
it's
take
all of
exception to that wording. Yes. And I've just taken exception to that wording. It sort of creates the view that you've got council sitting over there in their ivory tower and you've got the community on the other side, whereas my view is, and if it isn't a reality, it's something we should work towards, which is that we are the community, we're part of the community, we're integrated into the community, and it's not a sort of us and them. So if we had some wording that better reflected that, I'd be a happier man.
Can I make a suggestion that we may
Can you-
say?
Sorry, can you speak? I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can I make a suggestion then? Because I actually like the fact that we have some allusion to community in there, because it means that we've consulted with community. So would you be happier with through community consultation?
What about
something
our
like-
community wants a healthy, inclusive, engaging, it's more sort of direct and has the word community and.
As long as we keep community in there somewhere.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be in the motion. It's just, I'm happy to flip this through over the next, 28 days. That's all. If I can keep whinging, keep going.
Sorry, we'll put it as part of it, just Councillor Haggerty, just to make sure.
Okay.
But can I say, are your I'm just mindful that we shouldn't be. We don't want to. If it's not all wording, That's one thing. If we're going to get into wording, we might be here a while, so there might be a better
That-
way to.
That was my only complaint on the wording. And normally I would have sent this through, but we're operating on a short time frame here, so I
No, fair call.
apologise. I've now lost it. There's a section in here on major events. Someone could help me find that.
(31), 39.
Page 39. All right, thank you. During the previous term of council, we took events to the suburbs and they were very successful. I had feedback from residents saying it was wonderful that they could come home from a week of work on a Friday night, grab a blanket, grab the kids, and walk down to their local park and grab something to eat and watch a movie. I'm just concerned that the only events listed here are on George Street and Macquarie Mall, and if we add Blessed Nights, which was a successful event, there seems to be a concentration on a few hundred metres in the CBD. Yet we have a LGA which is 306 square kilometres. So I don't know who that question's to, but I guess the question is, are we abandoning the suburb and focusing too much on the CBD in regards to events?
I'll refer the question to Tina Bono, the Director of Community.
Thank you. Through the CEO, Councillor Haggerty, we're not abandoning the suburbs as such. What we're planning to do is a different approach. We're building a prospectus around the precincts and what can be delivered out there, and also doing some promotion work through our external events approving officer and our comms team to basically have other operators running our events through other provisions and other parts of the LGA, while the focus has been around the Macquarie Mall activation through a range of different major events. That is purely for has broader social outcomes for what we want to achieve in the CBD. So we will still be delivering out in the suburbs, just using a different approach.
So we're outsourcing events in the suburbs.
Yes, essentially yes. We'll work with operators to do other offerings out in the suburban areas, which is currently at play anyway. We have, the food truck jam out of Carnes Hill was run by Aussie Night Markets. We work closely with them through the approving events officer. We've got a lot of events out of Woodwood Park. It just depends. Rosedale is another oval that's constantly being sourced. So there's different. It's just a different approach.
Thank you, Councillor Moon.
Sorry, just wanted to know if it's not fair for the suburbs. What suburbs were you referring to, Councillor Haggerty?
All of the suburbs that aren't called Liverpool.
Sorry?
All of the suburbs that aren't Liverpool.
Well, basically, the CBD represents all of Liverpool. It is our CBD. So if you have an event in the centre of the CBD, it's representing the whole LGA, isn't it?
I'd suggest you go out and speak to people in the rural areas and in the suburbs and in the other areas. That's their view as well.
I think, Councillor, so we're not going to a whole debate. I think there's more a strategic question for us as councillors, and I think what Councillor Moon is referring to, it's that we've got 42 suburbs and we're not going to have 42 events. We're not going to have an event in each suburb. So it gets down to the question of, do you have a centralised, or do you try to do these little pockets which only benefit to use your example of going down for a walk, that's only probably a couple of suburbs you can, Yeah, so I think we as council need to have that decision. Say, well, what do we do? Do we try to spread it thin and make it through suburbs, or do we focus on an area that we have a metropolitan city? So maybe that's a discussion we can have online, or maybe through the tourism and events committee that can help guide us on see what people's views are.
Okay.
Next item.
That's it for me. I'll let someone else have a go.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Through the Mayor, I failed to see the visitation precinct anywhere in this document. And I was wondering what happened, that it seems to have dropped off. So I would like point 4 that the visitation precinct it doesn't seem to be in the 100-day plan. It seems to have been dropped off. So if we could have that placed back into the...
Councillor Rhodes, we certainly are having that work is currently at play, so it's actually been executed. It is on the 100-day plan that we're currently working through and communicating to the broader community. It may not be listed as a particular standalone item, but we can rectify that if that's something that you'd like. But it is actually happening.
Yes, I think I would like to see it in there. I think that tourism is a matter that has not been well developed by this council thus far, with the opportunities that it presents in re-establishing a visitor economy. And it seems to me that it is through tourism that we are going to be able to help many businesses, because tourism, it does infiltrate right throughout the community and improve the economic outcomes for every business operating in Liverpool. And I think that's going to have tremendous economic advantages for Liverpool moving forward.
Yeah, I think if I look, I'm not sure if point 4 captures exactly what the Deputy Mayor is referring to. And if I can lift it up a moment, it's a matter of saying, well, the Capital Works program, how does that link to the resolutions of council, right? So if we resolve to do X, Y, Z, then where are they in here and where are there's potential conflicts? Because I can see conflicts. We're spending money on potentially something that we don't, that may not be there in the future because of another resolution. So I guess that's kind of what you're going at, particularly generally speaking, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, that's right,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
So I'm very interested. I think we would, if we could please be provided that information, which basically says, let me think of a wording, and this doesn't have to be a report to council, it can be just circulated to councillors, is the how the resolutions of council as resolved in our previous meetings are captured or not captured within the budget. Now, I think, Deputy Mayor, if we get that, then by the time we get to our next,
Happy to bring it up at the next meeting that we'll be having regarding these issues.
Whoever has a towel in front of the camera maybe won't want to turn off the camera. Oh.
No, I was just bringing it to the council's attention.
Right.
It seems that for a city that has an international airport opening up in a few years,
Yeah.
it's hardly mentioned at all within this document.
Yeah. So can we put maybe a comma after that, say in particular the visitation centre?
Visitation precinct.
Precinct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Right. Councillor Haggerty?
Back for seconds. Can I just understand the rationale behind deferring the traffic calming devices? I understand your council's position is to not support the 30-kilometre zone. That would make it a 40-kilometre zone, in which case traffic calming devices would still stop, still assist in that regard. It'd still stop people getting pinged for speeding. It would mean that if someone was to get hit by a car, that would ensure that they weren't going as fast as they otherwise would, and potentially save lives. I don't think they don't. You can still have traffic calming devices and not support 30 kilometres.
I think weren't we a 50k zone or beforehand?
Yes,
It was 50k's.
40 before the school.
40 in the core and 50 on there. Yeah.
So, yeah, my opposition to the 30k zone is that there are no traffic treatments to tell you. You're driving on a road that's 70, then it's 60, then it's 30, and there's nothing on the road to physically tell you. You go to, say, the Canberra city centre where it's something like 10 or 15 kilometres, it goes up into a sort of a raised paved threshold, and whether you've noticed the sign or not, you instantly know because of the way you're driving, and you go up, you go, oh, I better slow down. My understanding is that's what these raised thresholds were to do. So we're I don't know if we're helping or hurting making the problem worse here by opposing this. At the end of the day, as Councillor Mood mentioned, it is a city centre. It's got to be an area where people slow down. The argument is whether it's 30, 40 or 50, and raised thresholds assist drivers in slowing down.
So are you saying that you'd support the 30k's if we had the calming devices?
No, what I'm saying is let's take the whole 30k out of it.
Yep.
Regardless of what the speed is in the CBD, I think traffic calming devices are a good thing, given it's a CBD. There's lots of traffic, there's lots of pedestrian traffic. So that was my view.
Yeah. So I guess the interesting thing here, it's showing that it's a grant of $632,000, and I guess is that linked directly? And then the question is, well, if this was only a trial, and is it not really a trial, and they're making this permanent? So I think this is where we got to say, hold on, before we go and accept your money, right? I think the community has a strong view, and I think if the minister would like 30k zone, then I would strongly recommend that she does it in her electorate in the northern beaches and other areas, and see how that goes. Because the consultation, let's face it, over 2 years of COVID is going to show decreased numbers of any pedestrian or traffic incidents because nobody's been on the road. So what do we do? Another 2-year trial? So I think you're just mindful that we don't say. I might just through the CEO, I think some comment.
Thank you. Through the acting CEO, my understanding is that grant fund wasn't directly tied to the 30k zone. So if the government did choose for the 30k zone to revert to 40k zone, the grant funding was still able to be used by council to support some of the actions identified in the adopted council city centre public domain plan. We'd need to get some advice on the progress with actioning that grant and when we're actually ready to deliver that project, which I think is well advanced.
Okay, so just a follow-up question to Mr. Smith. So that fund, regardless of 30, 40, whatever, that grant is tied to the city domain master plan. We couldn't perhaps use that on raised thresholds in Cecil Hills that I've been asking for 3 years, Principal.
Yeah, thank you. Through the acting CEO, yes, it's directly related to traffic calming devices in the Liverpool city centre that supports the public domain master plan. The wording obviously could have been better worded, which referenced the 30k zone, because irrespective of 30 or 40, it was intended that there would be some traffic calming devices put into the city centre to support a slower speed traffic environment.
Now, I noticed also through the CEO that there's $2.5 million, which is another grant for Macquarie Streetscape improvements, more to Scott Street. Yeah. What was that? Sorry,
through the acting CEO, I believe that was through the Public Spaces Legacy program that was awarded to council last year.
Yeah.
And council voted on those along with 2 others.
Yeah, I believe there are 3 projects grant funded through DPI's grant.
Yeah. So I think to your point then, Councillor Haggerty, then it's a matter of do we actually remove the reference through the 30 kilometres and say the Liverpool Senate traffic calming proposal? Councillor McNaught?
No. I was going to say, Mr. Smith answered the question anyway. As long as it's not tied to the 30k zone, I don't think it ever hurts to have traffic calming devices, regardless of the speed limit. But as long as we're not tied to that 30k speed limit, I think I'd be happy with that.
We're not tied to the 30k.
Yep.
If we can remove that wording 30 kilometre speed limit, then that would possibly satisfy everybody.
Yeah. So I think it would be,
Yeah, happy with that and agree with Councillor McNaughton's sentiment.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Seconder, happy with that? Oh. Councillor
Just a
Hadid?
question in regard of the 30Ks. It's limited to the CBD, isn't it?
It goes all the way out to Warwick Farm,
Warwick Farm.
as in going through, you go down Big Street, you go around the hospital, you go through Liverpool,
Okay, well, this is fine.
boys and girls.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me some people in favour of 50Ks, the other on 30Ks, especially the government, you know? So I believe the best solution to it just to put calming device.
Yeah.
So we're not going to change, you know, the speed within the CBD. All we're having to do is just calming device, so everyone has to slow down. And it's cheap, I think.
Potentially. Is there any other,
It work for the community as well, without getting fined.
is there any other amendments, councillors? No? Well, that being all, just my right of reply. I think as councillors, you can see there's a lot of still work to go through with the capital works. But this is not it's not perfect from that point of view. So with regards to the fees and charges, the capital works, we really want to hear the community's feedback. We cannot stress that enough. We want the submissions so we can look at them, and from there we can then finalize the budget. So that being said, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour, please raise your hands. For those online, for Councillor Carneeb.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I declare the motion unanimous. Well, everybody, anybody have any general business I'd like to bring up? Presentations? Staff are usually used to being here till 8 o'clock at least. I'm sure they budgeted for that. Thank you, everyone. I'd now like to declare the meeting officially closed. Thank you.